all of the gas class cars have gone to the back of the grid. So watch out for that Porsche. Certainly in the hands of Colin Tester, Brandtach instructor, it should make some serious progress over the course of a 45-minute race that has a mandatory pit stop of 2 minutes, slap bang in the middle of the race. So between the 15th and 30th minute is when the pit window opens. So Jack Wright in the Porsche on pole position has been racing in Trackday Trophy for a very good number of years, but already there's contact in the background by the look of things, and Simon Morris is pitched into the pit wall instantly at the wheel of his Citroen Saxo, having his, I think, second ever race, but he didn't even get to the start line and the Saxo is in the wall. Light damage to it, hopefully he can get that car out of harm's way. And then Jordan Honeybone is wheel to wheel with the David Chelsky and Dale Wheelton BMW, and there was a little bit of contact between those two as they went up towards Druid, as they sort of bounced off each other, but looks though Jordan Honeybone has still hung on to second place, and he's still got the Zachchevsky and Dale Wheelton BMW, which is the black car with its lighter blue flashes to it and red livery on it, still sitting behind. And despite the hugely full grid and a little bit of car-to-car contact in the early stages, everybody is largely safely through the first couple of corners. I think the Citroen Saxo that came to grief in the hands of Simon Morris is limping round, as you can see, with damage to the front right-hand corner. The race leaders, in the meantime, are just starting to build the speeds again as they head out of Hawthorne Bend and along the Derek Minter Straight. Jack Wright leading the way, Jordan Honeybone sitting there in second place, but under pressure from the BMW, which David Chevsky shares with Dale Wheelton. Just behind them is Michael Rawlings. Charlie Polk at the wheel of his white Clio, I think, is the next one up. Now Jordan Honeybone going to lose a place here. The door is open. Through goes the Dubshack BMW. So that's one place lost. Jordan Honeybone drops down into third position and is now under pressure from Michael Rawlings, who's trying to attack and defend from Charlie Polk's Renault Clio at the same time, and sits there in fifth position. Second of the two white Clios, but the all-white Clio. There's little puffs of smoke coming from that BMW of Michael Rawlings, and that's coming from the front corner, which suggests that's probably as a result of a little bit of body contact somewhere. Seems to stop as he heads around the right-hander, but yeah, it's the bumper falling off, isn't it, as a result of some contact, so it's just catching the front tyre of his car. Are we going to have a change for the lead of the race? Jack Wright having to drive overtime here to try and keep the David Chevsky and Dale Wheelton BMW behind. But at the moment, Porsche still leads BMW from Jordan Honeybone's Renault Clio, followed from the fourth place car of Michael Rawlings, who's trying to get up the inside of Jordan Honeybone and might go through. We might have a change for the lead of the race as well. We do. The BMW goes through. Jack Wright dropping down into second place. Up to third comes Michael Rawlings. Down to fourth goes Jordan Honeybone. And Charlie Polk, with the best seat in the house, stays there in fifth. He's the only one inside the top five that didn't change position. But he has got the best view of it all unfolding ahead of him. Still see that smoke coming from Michael Rawlings' car. Seems to get worse as he goes down the straight. Whatever it is, I think, is the broken bodywork pressing against the tyre as he goes faster. Of course, there's more wind resistance, and therefore it catches the tyre ever more. Of course, he can't really do anything about it until the pit window opens, but equally as much the officials might have a look at it, potentially display the black and orange flag to them if they think it's serious enough. That's for them to worry about, not for me. Out of Sterling's, bouncing over the grass using all of the very edge of the curb, and there, by the look of things, that's Tommy Valentine, who's got into the back of the number 77 car, which is still Stephen Gilbert and Matt Baldacci car. That was up at Druids where those two got together. In the meantime, Jack Wright has now dropped a further position, so he was leading the race early doors, but he's had one BMW go past him. He's now had the BMW of Michael Rawlings go past him, so it's a BMW 1-2. Porsche sitting there now in third position and coming under attack for the pair of Renault Clios behind, which have also changed position because it's now the number 98 car of Charlie Polk, who is ahead of Jordan Honeybone. The Apple Car Centre Clio down to fifth position at the moment, which his father Ray Honeybone drove yesterday in the Trackday Championship, and there, I'm afraid, off the circuit and with some sort of mechanical issue, is going to be the number 25 car. And that is a car again that we saw out yesterday in the Trackday Championship, but I'm afraid he's going to be taking no further part in this one. There's also damage to the 86 car as well, which will be destined for the pit lane. That's Ethan Lundy. See lots and lots of damage to the front end of his Mazda MX-5, and Ethan Lundy qualified originally 24th. The orange Fiesta of James Burnham and Ben Vos qualified 25th, so not sure whether the two of them came together, and that's what caused the Fiesta to be on the grass and retire. The side we were looking at, there didn't look to be any obvious damage. There was certainly damage on Ethan Lundy's Mazda, that's for sure. So 40 minutes to go. Still 10 minutes before the pit window opens. It opens 15 minutes into the race, closes for the final 15, and each car must make a mandatory pit stop of a minimum of 2 minutes in length, and that is timed from when the car enters the pit lane to when it exits the pit lane. So it doesn't mean the car has to be stationary for that period of time. They're in the pit lane with broken suspension, and that car will be going no further. It's the number 55 car, which, as I say, is I'm sure Tommy Valentine's car. There's that many cars in the entry list, it's difficult to try and spot all of them. That certainly looked like Tommy's car. Yep, number 55, Tommy Valentine, confirmed. And also, as we say, James Burnham and Ben Vos Ford Fiesta parked up and out of the race. Still continues with just localised yellows for the moment. Now, fastest lap of the race last time through went to the car in second place, which was Tom Rawlings. The Toyota of Wayne Cockrell is having a good little fight as well. So that's the number 21 car of Wayne Cockrell. He's fighting away with a slightly earlier shaped Honda Integra. It's the DC3, isn't it? The Seckles, which is James and Tom Seckle. The red car with the yellow stripe all the way down through the centre of it. And then just behind that is going to be the car off the back of the grid, which I did say to watch out for. I did say the Porsche of Colin Tester and James Rowling would be one to watch out for. It qualified second quickest, but moved to the guest class, so went off the back of the grid. Well, that is now up into 14th position, having started 42nd in reality. So that Porsche puffing out a little bit of smoke, the Porsche Boxster, the dark blue car with the large white stripe down the centre of it, is going to be one that's well worth watching. There's the Semprini Racing number 37 Honda that Jeremy Evans shares with Phil Hart. And as we see the battle continuing between the Toyota and the Seckles Honda, let's have a quick look at the restart of the Trackday Trophy race. So went out. Jack Wright was sitting down pole position with Jordan Honeybone alongside, and then good start from the rear-wheel drive BMWs, but can't really prise the door open. So the number 41 of Jack Chevsky and Weirton fighting away with Michael Rawlings. And then just have a look how tight it gets as they head up towards Druids. Jordan Honeybone sort of bangs into the side of one of the BMWs and is sort of squeezed between the pair of them, drops down into 4th position, whilst Jack Wright in the Porsche still, all of that, manages to hang on to the lead of the race. But yeah, a little bit of side-to-side contact, but a very full grid of cars, and they eventually sort themselves out by the time they get down in towards Graham Hill Bend at the end of the first lap of the race. So a busy start to the race, and still a busy race to come with 37 minutes still remaining. The number 41 David Chekchevsky and Dale Weirton BMW still leading the way at this stage. Michael Rawlings in his BMW still there in second place. Jack Wright in the Porsche in third. They both dropped, haven't they? The Renault Clios of Charlie Polk and Jordan Honeybone for the moment, but those two Clios are still fighting tooth and nail over who for the moment wants to be in fourth and who wants to be in 5th position. However, there will be traffic that will need to be dealt with before too much longer. And I think it's going to be the Colin Ritzberger and Robbie Boone's Mazda 2 that is going to be probably the first of the cars that gets caught by the front runners. But with so many cars out there, once you caught the first of the back markers, you are always, for the rest of the race, going to be working your way through some sort of traffic. And a lot of it comes down to when you meet it, where you meet it, does it move out of your way, or how quickly can you get past it, and how little time can you lose. For the moment, Charlie Polk can't afford to lose a great deal. He's got a very similar car of Jordan Honeybone behind him, the Gen 4 Clio. Again, just coming up towards that traffic, which is going to be the 133 Mazda 2. Colin Ritzberger shares. Moves out of the way. There goes the silver Mazda through the shot. But then straight away, next little bit of traffic to deal with, and also an off and rejoining, and that's Ethan Lundy again, isn't it? Wheel of the Mark III Mazda, but the slightly battered front to it, following his exploits earlier on in the race. Car's still going well though, despite the fact that it's got damage to the front. It's now got very dirty tyres, hasn't it, after his trip through the Clearways gravel trap. He is way outside of the top 20 at the moment. So qualified 24th, Ethan Lundy. With all the problems that he's had, he's dropped much further down through the order. And I think rejoining the race is also now the number 55 car of Tommy Valentine that we saw in the pit lane area with some suspension damage, so he has made it through. We've also now got the fight back on for second place once more, haven't we? Because Michael Rawlings, at the wheel of his BMW, all of a sudden has now been caught again by the Porsche 944 of Jack Wright. Well, Michael Rawlings is doing the full race. Jack Wright will be handing the car over to Matt Orlett, and Jack Wright got a bit more momentum. The BMW had a bit of a squirrely moment. It's still got that smoke puffing off the front tyre, which hasn't got any worse, but it does still mean that that tyre is going to be rubbing with the bodywork, which is slowly going to wear it through. And Jack Wright takes the opportunity to squeeze his way back into second place. Up the inside of the Porsche he goes. All traffic to deal with though, as they work their way up the inside of the next of the Mazda 2s, which is going to be Nick Dougal's car, who I think used to race Mazda MX-5s quite some years ago in the Mark 1 Championship. Keeps the Mazda 2 out of harm's way. And Jack Wright, much slower coming out of Graham Hill Bend, is going to have to allow Michael Rawlings to go back through once more. So the BMW excelling in a straight line, whereas the Porsche has the handling, and all of the cars are largely arranged in classes based on power to weight ratio. So Class B is the most powerful cars, 151 to 175 brake horsepower per tonne. If you are a Class C car, you've got between 126 and 150 brake horsepower per tonne. If you're in Class D, it's up to 125 brake horsepower per tonne. All the way down through the order, we've still got fights going on. Number 144 is the Stephen Goodliff and Luke Reed Mini, fighting away with Wayne Cockrell's Toyota that sits behind, and then it's the Seckles Honda DC2. I think it's a DC3 earlier, it's a DC2, isn't it, that car? Which is Tom and James Seckles' car, which I think is going to move through and ahead of Wayne Cockrell's Toyota. So they go through, and that's a problem, and that is a retirement for Damian Shrupchalski's car. So number 88 Honda out of the race. Now Jack Wright, having briefly gone back up into second place, is now in danger of dropping out of third because he's got Jordan Honeybone breathing down his neck. They need to work their way past Stephen Gilbert and Matt Baldacci's Renault Clio, which they do on the approach up towards Paddock Hill Bend, past the number 77 car. Now Jack Wright, again, will be able to see that Renault Clio is right on his rear quarter panel almost as they headed towards the braking area for Druids. This lap and probably another before the pit window opens for them. That's the earliest point at which they can pit, but everybody has to pit in the middle 15 minutes of the 45-minute race. So you can't enter the pits until there's 15 minutes of the race elapsed. You can't enter the pits after there's less than 15 minutes to go. And another off, I'm afraid, and that is the Alex Hamilton and Sam Beard Ford Fiesta. That's had a spin at Graham Hill Bend and is just in the process of recovering, so dropped down through the order. No damage to the car, no harm done, just places and time lost. They should continue in the race. Now second, third and fourth all still together, aren't they? Michael Rawlings, followed by Jack Wright, and then thereafter Jordan Honeybone. Here's a fight going on between Ollie Moss fighting away with the Mazda MX-5 Mark IV as it is, which is going to be the 56 car. Pit window now imminently open. Right, Jack Wright I think was trying to signal there as to something. As they come round and over the start-finish line, it's back up into second place once more. In a straight line, the Beamer has more grunt, and therefore Michael Rawlings is trying to draw himself back alongside the 944 in towards the braking area of the Paddock Hill Bend. The lighter Porsche should brake later, hangs on to the place. Can Michael Rawlings get the cutback on the exit of the corner? No is the answer, but he should have the power up the hill. And they're also now trying to weave their way through and past further traffic again once more, which is going to be the number 15 BMW this time that stays neatly out of harm's way. Jack Wright for the moment, still hanging on to second place. Now, it was at this point of the circuit last time where he was much slower out of Graham Hill Bend, and Michael Rawlings came back at him. Well, he's having another little nibble now, but he's not going to be close enough this time to retake the place. Now all of a sudden it's second, third, fourth and fifth that are all together. So it's the Porsche of Jack Wright, Michael Rawlings, followed by Jordan Honeybone, and then with his lights ablaze now, the all-white Renault Clio, Charlie Polk is trying to get in on the mix as well. The pit window will be open for them next time they come through, so pit window now open. So anybody that's already come into the pits for attention, even if they've come in and been in there for a long period of time whilst they've been doing mechanical issues, they've got to go back out onto the circuit before they can rejoin. We should see maybe a few cars, if they think they're held up in traffic, now would be the opportune moment to come into the pit lane, and Michael Rawlings is very sideways, heading out of Sheen Curve, spins to the inside of Sterling's, and yeah, he tried several attempts to try and get the car back under his spell. He'd already got some damage to the front of the car, and I think that troublesome bit of bodywork now has probably been ripped off as a result of that. However, he does now have damage to the rear of the car, and may well come into the pit lane to have that gaffer taped up. And it looks as though, with lots of arm twirling, could never get the car quite under his spell, but largely got away with it, and yet flapping bodywork, he'd be well advised to come into the pit lane on this lap, get the car checked over, and I think that's what he's doing. Yeah, so sensible driving by Michael Rawlings. That was all because he went into Sheen Curve a little bit too quick, dipped a couple of wheels onto the grass, which of course that's the side of the car that's loaded up as well. As you're going through the right hander, it loads up the left hand side of the car. Those wheels hit the grass, tried to recover it, pendulum effect took place, and it snapped back the opposite way on him and into the barriers on the inside of Sterling's Bend. So no massive damage done to the car, but no, he's getting out, and it looks as though that's it for Michael Rawlings. So maybe he might rip the bodywork off and decide to go for it. They've got 2 minutes to do this. I think we can have a quick replay of exactly what caused him to go off in the first place. So up towards Sheen Curve, you see he runs wide, 2 wheels on the grass, tries to catch it, but he's still on the power. The BMW snaps back the opposite way, and even on the dry grass, slides into the barriers on the inside of Sterling's Bend. Had that been wet grass, you could imagine how much faster he'd have been travelling when he made contact with the barriers. Gets going again. It sorts out that bit of bodywork on the front of the car that was dragging. They are now ripping the rear bumper off the car, and I do think we'll see him back out. So as long as they can get this done and get him back out there fairly quickly, it's not going to have done his race a great deal of good, but lots of kicking of feet and pressing to try and rip things off it. You can see that Michael Rawlings is also just double checking that the bodywork is not catching on the car. That rear right hand wheel is not getting caught by the bodywork, and now that they're happy they have ripped front and rear bumpers off the car, he'll be back out in the race. A race which is still being led at this stage by the number 41 car, which David Zapchevsky shares with Dale Weirton. David's the regular driver of this car. Also in the pit lane, that is Rob Adams, I think, getting into the car, and yet Father Martin Adams, and Charlie Polk's had an off as well. That's at the exit of Paddock Hill Bend. Car that was running in 4th position as a result of Michael Rawlings coming into the pit lane. Charlie Polk's just had an off, so looks like that may well all have been on his own accord. And the number 91 Porsche I was talking about is about to gain another place. He dives up the inside of Darren Goes, and that Porsche, remember, from 41st on the grid, is now up into, I make it, 5th position. I did say keep an eye out for it. I suspect it's in the hands of Colin Tester, who knows Brands Hatch like the back of his hand. But what a little squabble they are having, and there's also a good squabble behind as well, because the Mini in the hands of Darren Goes has just been overtaken by that Porsche. He's running now in 6th position. Look behind him, who's behind him? Paul McHugh at the wheel of the number 39 Honda, the Rahiba car. So there is Darren Goes, who's been a long-time supporter of MSVT's Trackday Trophy and Trackday Championship. We also saw him out in the Super Cup, which was a series they had going briefly. Darren, haven't seen him out in a Mini before. It's largely been Cupras that we've seen him out in the past. But this Mini, new to the stable. And, oh, crumbs, the Porsche from 41st on the grid nearly did exactly what Michael Rawlings did there. So ran very wide coming out of Sheen Curve, but I'm sure that car must be in the hands of Colin Tester. The way that it's going, it's got Tester written all over it as a Brandtach instructor. Don't know a great deal about James Rolling. And into the pit lane it comes. Also coming into the pit lane, I think we've got Jack Wright in at the wheel of the race leading Porsche. The 944 has come into the pit lane. Or what was at one stage the race leading Porsche. We also had Charlie Polk come into the pit lane. Darren Goes came in. The Porsche came in as well. So it now means that this car in the hands of Paul McHugh, the Honda, is now up into third position. Dives past Tommy Valentine and is now about to dive past Tommy's father, which is Andy Burton, at the wheel of the Ford Focus in the Burton Power car. Very much a local man, just the other side of the river, based in Romford. Burton Power. Again, they are another driver and another company that are a fundamental part of the MSVT family, with their support of not just Endurance KA, but the other series that Burton Power support. Now, in fact, for the number 58 car that was started by Simon Morris, that's now George Wright that's behind the wheel. Yorkshireman pressing on, trying to hoist the Saxo up through the order. You see the damage on the front when the car hit the pit wall almost before the lights went out, but despite the damage, it all seems to be going well. And yeah, it's definitely George that's behind the wheel now. The body language of the car tells you it's George, and the camera angle allowed us to see that it was George behind the wheel. The open-faced helmet, the dark beard, and the Citroen Saxo that's being harried around the circuit as quickly as he possibly can. So up towards 30s he will go. I'm sure whereabouts George is in terms of position at the moment, because of course that car dropped a long, long way down through the order when the lights went out. Into the pit lane we have the number 114 Mini, that will be. So that will be the Stephen Goodliff and Luke Reed Mini that's in the pit lane. And do we have problems for the Pole City car? It looks like we do. So Jack Wright is out of the car, but it looks as though the bonnet is up on the Porsche, and I'm not sure that Matt Orlett is going to get to drive the car, I'm afraid. So it looks like the 944 has fallen by the wayside. So one of the cars that we were hoping would feature back towards the sharp end is not going to. Into the pit lane has come the number 41 car of Dale Weirton and David Zakchevsky. Now, I can't tell one driver from the other, don't know either of them, but the way it was being driven in the early stages, I would have thought David Zakchevsky, because he is the regular driver in that car. Dale Weirton I know less about. And also in the pit lane, that looks like that's the Roberts, doesn't it? Robert Quantrill and Rob Jarman about to do the driver change. So plenty of time to do the driver change with the 2 minutes, plugging in what is the pit-to-car radio system as well. So Rob Quantrill getting out of the car, Rob Jarman about to jump in. Ethan Lundy still wrestling the rather battered MX-5 around the circuit. He's being chased around by Colin Wells at the wheel of his Mazda MX-5 Mark III. A lock of the brakes from Ethan Lundy, misses the apex at Surtees, which allows Colin Wells to draw himself alongside. Good to see Colin back out racing after a hefty shunt just, what, 2-3 weeks ago here in the Mayata Trophy, another one of MSVT's championship. And you can tell it's been a busy race for Colin Wells, because look at his wing mirrors. Left one's folded round, right one is folded round. He won't be able to see anything that's behind him other than his main rear view mirror. So hard-fought racing for Colin Wells, and he was pretty much alongside Ethan Lundy, but couldn't quite wiggle his way through. The slightly second-hand looking Mazda of Ethan still going very well indeed. Now leading the race at this stage is the number 44 Renault Clio of Jordan Honeybone, who has not pitted as yet. So he has worked his way right up through the order. Nice to see a Golf Mark II out as well. That's the Nicholas Bosch and Henry Wright Volkswagen Golf Mark II. That's a car that qualified only just inside the top 30. It used to be a separate championship for Golf Mark IIs in the UK, but of course as the cars become older, they become rarer, they become more expensive, parts become more difficult to come by, and so we see fewer Mark IIs out racing than we ever used to. about to be passed by Michael Rawlings at the wheel of the BMW. So where is Michael Rawlings now? 13th position actually. So despite the fact it was a slightly extended pit stop because of ripping the rear bumper off the car and checking the bodywork damage following his off just to put this part of the circuit coming towards Sheen Curve. It looks as though all is well, doesn't it? Of course, there's no issues with the bodywork catching the front anymore, because that disappeared off when he went into the barriers at this point of the track. They ripped the rear bodywork off when he came into the pit lane. He did exactly what I would thought, because the pit window had just opened, so come into the pit lane, get the car addressed, get it checked out, and he lost the minimal amount of time with that. The pit window is still open, there's still a few cars to come into the pit lane as yet, so if you are running inside the top 6, you have not pitted as yet. So number 44 car Jordan Honeybone leads the way, as yet to pit. The number 12 Renault Clio has yet to pit at this stage, which is Louis Harvey and Oliver Richardson. Tom and James Seckel in the Honda and Tegra DC2 haven't pitted, but I can just see them coming in down pit lane now. I was going to say that off the back of the grid we have not had in Carnival 166, which is Richard Clark, but I can see that his car is also now in the pit lane as well. John Lemaster leaves the pit lane. We've not had Ethan Lundy in at the wheel of his Mazda as yet. That's the car with the damage to the front of it. We've not had Colin Wells in at the wheel of the number 6 Mazda, who is doing battle with Ethan Lundy. Into the pits comes Simon Morris. Sorry, into the pits comes George Wright, that will be, won't he? Because we've already had that car in. So it looks as though 2 Team Air Supply cars, Porsche and the Honda, may well both have encountered problems in this race. Jack Wright and his father George. So there goes our race leader Jordan Honeybone through shot over the start-finish line and through Paddock Hill Bend. He's not pitted as yet still. The last lap Jordan did was his best individual lap of the race so far. Now, he's catching traffic. He's got 3.5 minutes before he needs to break the beam at the pit lane entry. So, doesn't necessarily need to pit at the end of this lap, but if he doesn't, he's then leaving it very tight thereafter, I would say. So I think we'll see the Apple Car Centre Clio in at the end of this particular lap. Now the next car that he needs to try and work his way past, he does so, and that's going to be the number 444 car of Jay Coombs, who qualified just outside of the top 10 in 11th position. There'll be more Mazdas up the road to deal with, and this will be another 2 cars that haven't pitted as yet. So it's Colin Wells, who's running 4th overall, about to get lapped by the race leader, and then Ethan Lundy, who's running 3rd overall, about to get lapped by the race leader. But both of those Mazdas still at some point need to dive for the pit lane. So Jordan Honeybone up the inside of Ethan Lundy, who's not going to let him through, and almost squeezes him towards the curb as they head in towards Westfield Corner. But Jordan Honeybone goes through, and then because Ethan Lundy is delayed, I think Colin Wells snuck through there, and that would have been a change for position between those 2 Mazdas. So Lundy now down into 4th, Colin Wells up into 3rd, and trying to fight back. But they must come into the pit lane within the next 2 3/4 minutes. So are we going to see the race leader in this time through Jordan Honeybone? Are we going to see either of these Mazdas come in? Well, Colin Wells is going to run very wide indeed. Is he going to come into the pits? Yes, he does, but Ethan Lundy overtakes him at pit lane entry, and that was for position as well. So into the pit lane come the 2 Mazdas. Jordan Honeybone still stayed out on track at the wheel of the number 44 car, so he is going to leave it till the very, very end of the pit stop window. We also need in at some stage. The number 12 Renault Clio is not showing as having come into the pits at the moment, so that's the Louis Harvey and Oliver Richardson car, which is the Pro-Am Racing engine machine, I believe. Now, bonnet up on the Porsche. Jack Wright still working away on it, so he's done driving duties, but he's still trying to fix the car to see whether he can sort it out and get Matthew Mollett out into the car. So Matthew is getting the balaclava on, so it looks as though they're reasonably satisfied they might be able to get going. Father George Wright is on hand as well to see if he can sort it out, and more cars in the pit lane as well. So Jack Stewart in the pit lane at the wheel of the Mazda MX-5 Mark 1. Looks as though the number 12 Renault Clio is in, and let's have a quick look at this. So Colin Wells up the inside of Ethan Lundy. Ethan Lundy gets the switch back, and they both head for the pit lane at the same time. So yeah, overtake happens right at pit lane entry, and that was for position. So Colin Wells tighter line in and was a little bit too late. Not very often you see that kind of overtake on pit lane entry. So I think everybody has pitted or is in the process of completing their pit stop, bar one car at the moment that needs to get into the pit lane in the next few seconds, i.e. 22, and that is the race leader Jordan Honeybone. Because we've got 15 seconds of the pit window still to go, and into the pit lane comes Jordan Honeybone now. So perfect timing. The race leader is in Jordan Honeybone, but whilst others have been pitting, of course, he's had fairly clear track, and therefore the lap times he's been popping in have been quick ones. Where will he re-enter the pit lane, back out into the race, is the big question. So remember, he's in the pit lane area for a full 2 minutes. Now, in reality, he would need to get out ahead of the number 41 BMW, which had been leading the race overall until the pit stop window opened. So the David Zakchevsky and Dale Weirton car, which has just set its best individual lap of the race so far, is the car that Jordan Honeybone needs to beat out of the pit lane. Well, there, out of Druids goes the number 41 car. It is on lap number 17 at the moment. Jordan Honeybone is on lap number 17 and hasn't quite completed it yet because he's at the pit lane entry end, completing his pit stop. So at the end of this lap, it's where that BMW is on track compared to the Apple Car Centre Renault Clio that will come out of the pit lane. That's what we need to keep an eye on. Double chat BMW going well, about to squeeze its way through and past what I think is Rob Adams at the wheel of the number 3 Mazda MX-5, the Castle Donington based resident. Adams, father and son, 19th overall at the moment, like 4th in Class D. Run you down through the class leaders once all of the pit stops have settled down, because Jordan Honeybone is still in the pit lane at the moment and not trundling anywhere. Up towards Sheen Curve comes the number 41 David Zakchevsky and Dale Weirton BMW. Up towards Stirling's it's threading its way, and the Apple Car Centre Renault Clio is only now just starting to work its way down the pit lane. So Jordan Honeybone gets going. And where is he going to feed his way out? He can't break the pit lane speed limit, and with those fast laps that he put in whilst the track was clear, only now out of clearways comes the BMW. So Jordan Honeybone, in the clearer track, leaving the pit stop until the very end, has picked up the lead of the race. So the Apple Car Centre Renault Clio leading the way in the hands of Jordan Honeybone. Twinkle, as he's known to the family, won't thank me for that, heads down in towards the braking area for Graham Hill Bend. Car that's second, which is the Dale Weirton and David Zakchevsky car. BMW in second place, third at the moment, despite the damage, despite the spin, despite ripping off the bumper and getting out of the car in the pit stops, is Michael Rawlings at the wheel of his yellow and white and light blue BMW 328i. Paul McHugh in the Honda 39 car is going to be 4th at the moment. Darren goes in the Mini, which is the 22 car, is 5th, and in 6th place, if they stay there, that should be the leader of Class C that's there in 6th place, which will be the number 12 Renault Clio of Louis Harvey and Oliver Richardson. So they'll be leading Class C. Leading Class G, remember all the Class G cars started off the back of the grid, is going to be car number 166, which is Richard Clark in the Finn Sport car. He started 42nd and is now up into 8th position. And who's going to be leading Class D? It's going to be car number 444, which is the Mazda MX-5 in the hands of Jay Coombs. That's the largely blue car, isn't it? The Mazda MX-5 number 444. Jay Coombs will be the Class D leader at this stage. So 11.5 minutes still remain. The gap first to second, Renault Clio back to number 41 BMW, was 10.9 seconds last time through, but of course Jordan Honeybone has only in reality just done an outlap, so you would expect that gap to come down on the first lap out. It has, it's come down to 8.2 seconds, so that's the gap that we need to try and keep an eye on. Michael Rawlings is a little way back in 3rd place. Yellow BMW as yet has not come over the start-finish line. You can just see in the background of the shot now. Yep, so here comes the yellow BMW now, through and over the start-finish line. He's there in 3rd place, and is some 20 seconds adrift of the car ahead of him, and 28 seconds off the lead at this stage. And it's lapping a little bit quicker actually than the cars ahead of him. Good fight going on between the Mazda MX-5s once more. That looks as though that is Colin Wells, who is coming under pressure from Rob Adams. They both sneak through and ahead of the Mark II Mazda MX-5, which looks as though that's the Mike Fletcher and Alex Langston car. Now, these two Mazdas will be fighting for position as well. It'll be for second and third in Class D. And off, I'm afraid we've lost the Mark II Golf, has gone off, so sadly that's the Nicholas Bosch and Henry Wright Volkswagen Golf. That looks as though that is probably coming off the Grand Prix loop up towards Clearways Corner. So it's probably come out of Stirling's and has had a problem down the straight and has pulled off just on the right hand side when you get towards back to the Indy circuit. Yeah, absolutely, that's where that car's pulled off. The wider shot allows me to pick out where that is. So localised double waved yellow flags there. Driver out of the car, hop to where the marshals are, should go to a single waved yellow once it's clear. Let's just have a quick look as to exactly what happened. Well, tucked up behind the number 77, Stephen Gilbert and Matt Baldacci, Renault Clio, and comes out of the corner. There's a puff of smoke, and instantly, the driver realises, pulls the car over to the right hand side of the circuit, off the racing line, and does a sensible thing, parks it up on the grass. So mechanical woes, and now that driver is behind barriers. That localised yellow flags are withdrawn and overtaking is once available at that part of the circuit. Right, lead advantage was 8.2 last time we picked up on it. Well, it's now gone out to 9.2. So there is no rate of close at the moment for the David Zakachevsky and Dale Weirton shared car. So don't know who's behind the wheel. We don't get the starting drivers in the Trackday trophy nowadays. But we do know that at the moment the gap has gone back out again, and there is traffic to deal with, and the traffic that is being dealt with by the BMW is going to be the Class D leading Mazda MX-5 of Jay Coombs, the number 444 car that's just being overtaken by the BMW. Now, Jay Coombs is fighting away with that Mini that lies ahead, and that is for position actually. They're in different classes. The Mini of Stephen Goodliff and Luke Reed sits in Class B, whereas it's the Class D Mazda that is trying to gain the place on it and should have the run actually. Yeah, going down through Dingle Dell. That will put Jay Coombs now up into 15th place overall at the wheel of the Mazda. Another place gained. And is fairly comfortably leading the class at the moment by about 16-17 seconds. He leads Class D by. Because it's the Colin Wells and Rob Adams, number 6 and number 3 Mazda MX-5, that are busy fighting away over what will be second and third in that class. Big Cockrell at the wheel of the number 21 Toyota. He's had a busy race, busy weekend as well, because he was out racing yesterday in the Trackday Championship. And here is, by the look of things, so here we go. This is all for position. This is for second, third and fourth in Class D. Just escaping a little bit is the grey car of Colin Wells, which means that Rob Adams at the wheel of the number 3 Mazda, coming under pressure from the slightly second-hand looking car of Ethan Lundy. They're fighting over 18th and 19th overall, but that's for the final podium spot in their respective class. And Rob Adams, for the moment, just hanging on to it. There's Colin Wells just up the road, so he's second in the class, and then third and fourth in the class still together. There's gaffer tape that's been applied to Ethan Lundy's car as a result of the damage that was sorted in the pit stop. You can see lots of arm twirling there from Ethan Lundy. Got on the power way too early, lots of oversteer on the Mazda, all over the grass on the exit of Druids. Needs to be careful that he doesn't do that too many times, otherwise he might pick up a time penalty for that. But he certainly had an interesting race, Ethan Lundy. I don't think there's been a dull point of it at any point for him. There's still work to do with 6.5 minutes to go. Lead advantage comes out further again on that lap. Remember, it was 8.2 seconds, it went to 9.2. It's now up to, you could argue, 10.7, because it's 10.699. The 55 Ford Fiesta of Tommy Valentine that lost time in the pit lane earlier with damage to the front left corner is back out there. Tommy's another driver we see regularly racing in the Enduro KA series as it is, with his father Andy Burton sharing the Burton Power liveried Enduro KA. Right, Rowan Lundy, Ethan Lundy I should say, dive up the inside of Rob Adams. That's not going to work, so waves the hand and says, right, thank you very much, you saw that was going to chop across the front of you, let's keep going, let's have a battle. Rob, who first started driving in the likes of Triumph TR7 V8 when he shared the car with his father Martin Adams. Martin's also got a TVR Tuscan with one of the original Rover V8 engines in that he's hoping to get prepared and come out racing in at some point. But they've concentrated their efforts on this Burton Motorsport Mazda MX-5 for the course of the last few seasons and have thoroughly enjoyed their time in Trackday Trophy. Towards the braking area, flash of the lights from the car behind, that's going to be the number 39, fourth placed Paul McHugh Honda that's trying to go through and past these squabbling Mazdas at this stage. So Paul McHugh might just need to wait for the moment to carve his car through and past. This is the sixth place Renault Clio, the number 12 car that Louis Harvey shares with Oliver Richardson. That was one of the last cars that pitted, and they are getting caught by this car here, which is Richard Clark's newer Gen 4 Renault Clio, the Finsport car, which came off the back of the grid. Now, Richard Clark is running at the moment in 7th position, leading the guest class, hunting down the car in 6th place. Where did he start? 41st is the answer to that one. So it really has been a good race from Richard Clark. All of the guest class cars started off the back of the grid. We saw good progress from the number 91 Porsche in the early stages when it was in the hands of Colin Tester. James Rowling, who is not as used to the car as Colin, has subsequently seen that car drop back down the order to a degree to 10th position. But for Richard Clark, he's been pressing on. And that's another car we haven't really seen much of. That's another father and son pairing, Gary Duckman and Lewis Duckman. Gary, former driver and front runner in the Dunlop Production Touring Car Championship. Lewis had his first ever race at Donington Park, a teenager, and kept his nose clean then. So keeping their nose clean here as well. They're the final car inside the top 20, or were. Cockrell has gone past them, but Ray Cockrell is running in 8th position at the wheel of the Toyota, yet so they'll still remain in 20th position at the wheel of the blue Renault Clio. 3.5 minutes to go. Rob Adam still trying to keep Ethan Lundy at bay. They squeeze their way through past Andy Burton's Ford Focus. Certainly somebody out there with a problem, because there's a large smell of gearbox oil wafting up into the commentary box. And there's another big moment for Ethan Lundy. Snatches the brakes. The car starts to get away from him. A big wiggle coming out of the corner. Car runs wide. And all of that effort catching the number 3 Mazda MX-5 ahead of Rob Adams. Somewhat unpicked to a degree again, so needs to concentrate his efforts on trying to close back up on them. They still continue to fight for what is 3rd and 4th in Class D. Right, we've also now got the fight fully on, haven't we, for the final place inside the top 6, with the number 12 older shape Clio with Louis Harvey and Oliver Richardson coming under pressure from the Gen 4 car of Richard Clark from 41st on the grid. Can he get himself inside the top 6 is the big question. So he's going to have a quick look, is he? No, he's not going to try anything as they head up towards Surtees this time through. Good exit coming off the corner could offer up a possibility as they then start to stretch their legs on the straight. Richard Clark has almost drawn himself alongside the older shape Clio. He does, he moves ahead and will be ahead by the time they get down in towards Hawthorne Bend, so job done. That now means that Richard Clark gains another place in the Finsport car. It runs in the guest class, but what a drive from 41st on the grid up to 6th position. That's a lot of overtaking, isn't it? Replay here of John Lemaster losing the tail end of the Lotus Elise Series 2. John has been racing Lotus cars for a good period of time, loses the tail end of the car, gets going, but of course had to wait for a gap in the traffic before he could rejoin. And that's another car that started towards the tail end of the field, John Lemaster. Qualified 9th quickest, but for whatever reason was put to the back of the grid. The number 65 car had almost worked itself inside the top 10. It was in 11th place. Still taking place. Ollie Moss still looking to try to press on and overtake the Mazda RX-8, which will be Darren Brace's car. Nice to see a Mazda RX-8 out racing. We do see a few in other series in the UK, but nice to see one in the MSVT Trackday Trophy, which always has. That's the great thing about it. Huge amounts of variety in it. I was totting up yesterday, what was it, 13 different marques represented in the Trackday Championship. And in the Trackday Trophy, we've got Porsche, Renault, BMW, Honda, Lotus, Mazda, Toyota, Mini, Citroën, Ford, Volkswagen, think that's it, so that's something like 11 different marks represented there. But for Jordan Honeybone, he is 10.8 seconds to the good. He is heading along the Cooper Straight for the final time and heads up towards Surtees with 20 seconds remaining on the clock, meaning by the next time he heads over the start-finish line, the clock will have ticked to 0. The checkered flag will be ready for him, and it is looking as though he is on course to pick up a win in this one. The opening race of the season saw a win for Justin Roberts and Nicole Drought in their Honda Civic. We saw Nicole out doing good things yesterday in the Trackday Championship. Second at Donington Park last time out, it was the Semprini Racing Honda of Jeremy Evans and Phil Hart. Well, they are running in 9th place at the moment, and Trevor Hurrell, who I don't think is out this weekend, completed the podium at Donington Park, so it looks as though we are going to have 3 different drivers, or 3 different sets of drivers, heading to the podium here, compared to round 1 that took place in the East Midlands. So Jordan Honeybone out of Stirlings along the short straight and up towards Clearways and Clark Curve for the final time, and he's almost going to put a lap on the car that finished second at Donington Park. But with the clock at 0, the Apple Car Centre Renault Clio in the hands of Jordan Honeybone, who left it till the very last moment. With about 15 seconds to go, he came into the pits with the pit window about to close. He comes through to claim his first win of the season and the second win of the year in the MSVT Trackday Trophy. Wait the arrival of the BMW in second place over the start-finish line of David Chapchevsky and Dale Weirton. They had a good run and were leading for a good period of time, were leading until they opted to dive for the pit lane. But their strategy on this occasion did not quite work, so they have already come through to take the checkered flag. Third through now comes the yellow BMW in the hands of Michael Rawlings, and then fourth we should await the black and the gold Honda of Paul McHugh, who will finish in 4th place in a car that also went well yesterday in the Trackday Championship. Yeah, flash of lights for Paul as he heads over the start-finish line, so he'll be more than pleased with that one. Darren Goes in the Mini should be next up, black Mini with the green metallic flashes to it. And then, you know, hats off also to Richard Clark for a fantastic drive at the wheel of the Finsport Renault Clio, starting 41st on the grid and able to bring the car home inside the top 6. He's not as yet taken the checkered flag, but he should be heading up towards it any second now. I think the next car over the start-finish line will be Andy Burton, so yeah, flash of lights from Andy Burton as the Ford Focus comes through. But yeah, brilliant stuff from Richard Clark, who is going to bring the car home. Here he comes now over the start-finish line, the white and the blue Renault Clio coming into shot now. 41st on the grid, up to 6th position. Good drive that, just for him. And he certainly had plenty of overtaking to do in that one. We've also now had over the start-finish line the number 12 Renault Clio, which is going to be the winner